Our planet wears a crown of white, the cryosphere, a vast kingdom of ice that stretches across continents and oceans, shaping the very face of Earth. This frozen realm is both beautiful and formidable, a silent guardian that has endured for millions of years. It blankets the poles in endless white, clings to the world's highest mountain peaks as ancient glaciers, and drifts as majestic icebergs on frigid, restless seas. The cryosphere is not just a feature of the landscape, it is a living, dynamic system, constantly shifting and evolving with the seasons. Antarctica and Greenland hold most of our planet's freshwater, locked away in ancient frozen layers that have witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations. These immense ice sheets are like frozen libraries preserving secrets from a time before humans walked the Earth. This ice is more than just frozen water. It's Earth's great mirror, reflecting sunlight back into space and keeping our world cool. The dazzling white surface acts as a shield, protecting the planet from the sun's relentless energy. The albedo effect, created by this reflective ice, regulates global temperatures and maintains a delicate balance for life. Without it, the planet would be far more vulnerable to the sun's heat, and the climate would become unpredictable. Without this shield, Earth would absorb more heat, warming rapidly. The loss of even a fraction of this ice can tip the scales, accelerating climate change and threatening the stability of ecosystems everywhere. Ice sheets and glaciers are also time capsules, preserving the story of our planet's past. Trapped within their layers are tiny bubbles of ancient air, dust, and pollen. Clues that help scientists unravel the mysteries of Earth's climate history. Imagine if all this ice vanished in a single day. The consequences would be catastrophic. Sea levels would surge, coastlines would disappear, and millions of people would be forced to flee their homes. Trillions of tons of fresh water would flood the oceans, shattering the planet's balance. The delicate interplay between land, sea, and sky would be thrown into chaos, with ripple effects felt across every continent. The climate would spiral into chaos, and the very foundations of our ecosystem would be under assault. Storms would intensify, weather patterns would shift, and the world as we know it would be forever changed. This ice governs weather, stabilizes coastlines, and provides fresh water for millions. It supports unique habitats, from polar bears in the Arctic to penguins in Antarctica, and sustains communities that have adapted to life on the edge of the frozen world. It's a vital organ of the living Earth, a loss measured not in years, but in geological ages. The disappearance of the cryosphere would mark the end of an era, altering the planet's heartbeat forever. To lose it would be to lose the planet's ability to sustain itself, to erase the memory of ice from Earth's story, and to risk a future where life as we know it may not survive. The most immediate consequence of total ice melt? It's a scenario that feels almost unimaginable, yet its effects would be swift and catastrophic. Oceans rising by 70 meters, over 200 feet. Every coastline on Earth would be redrawn, and the boundaries between land and sea would shift overnight. This isn't a gentle flood, it's a relentless, permanent submersion. Streets, parks, and entire neighborhoods would vanish beneath the waves, never to return. Coastlines, where humanity built its greatest cities, would vanish beneath a new, expanded ocean. The places we once called home would become part of the sea. Island nations like the Maldives and Tuvalu would disappear first, their cultures lost beneath the waves. Generations of history, language, and tradition would be erased in a matter of years. Low-lying countries like the Netherlands and Bangladesh would be swallowed, displacing hundreds of millions. Entire populations would be forced to abandon their ancestral lands. The world map would be redrawn, with new inland seas where nations once thrived. Familiar borders would vanish, replaced by vast stretches of water. Iconic cities, London, New York, Shanghai, Mumbai, would become underwater ruins. Landmarks that once defined civilizations would be lost to the deep. The loss would devastate our economy, culture, and history. Museums, libraries, and monuments would be abandoned, their treasures left to decay beneath the waves. Billions would be forced to flee, triggering the greatest refugee crisis in human history. The struggle for food, shelter, and safety would reshape societies everywhere. Coastal communities everywhere would abandon their homes, creating immense pressure inland. Cities far from the sea would swell with new arrivals, straining resources and infrastructure. The world would be forever divided between those lost to the sea and those forced to flee it. Our sense of place, identity, and belonging would be changed forever, as humanity adapts to a planet with new shores. The familiar shapes of continents would be unrecognizable. Rising seas would carve new channels, create vast inland seas, and erase entire regions. Florida would vanish, the Gulf of Mexico would merge with the Great Lakes, and the Amazon basin would become a massive sea. Landmarks like Venice, Alexandria, and Shanghai's Bund would be lost beneath the waves. These aren't just places, they're the memory of our civilization. Glaciers in the Alps, Himalayas, and Andes would disappear, stripping mountains of their white crowns. Rivers fed by these glaciers would first flood, then dry up, triggering drought and famine. The water towers of Asia would fail, leaving billions without reliable water. New coastlines would form far inland, and entire ecosystems would drown. The world we know would be gone, replaced by a strange, water-dominated planet. Old maps would become relics of a lost, cooler time. Without ice, Earth's climate would become violently unpredictable. The loss of polar ice caps, our planet's air conditioners, would send global temperatures soaring. Darker oceans and land would absorb more heat, fueling a feedback loop of runaway warming. Heat waves would become relentless, and storms would grow into hypercanes capable of destroying entire cities. Ocean currents would falter, throwing regional climates into chaos. Some places would freeze, others would burn. The water cycle would break. Some regions would flood endlessly, others would become deserts. Agriculture would collapse, triggering famine and mass migration. The rhythm of the seasons would vanish, replaced by a hostile, chaotic climate. The stable world that allowed civilization to flourish would be a distant memory. For wildlife, total ice melt would trigger a mass extinction not seen since the dinosaurs. Polar bears, penguins, seals, specialists of the cold, would vanish as their habitats disappear. The polar ecosystem would collapse and the devastation would ripple worldwide. Warming, acidifying oceans would kill coral reefs, erasing the foundation of marine life. On land, forests would burn or wither, and animals would be forced to migrate, many blocked by cities or new seas. Overcrowding, competition, and disease would decimate species everywhere. The intricate web of life, woven over millions of years, would unravel. The chorus of nature would fall silent in many places. We'd inherit a lonelier, impoverished world haunted by the ghosts of lost creatures. In a world without ice, human society would teeter on the edge of collapse. Billions displaced from drowned coasts would flood inland, overwhelming resources and sparking conflict. Fertile deltas would be lost, breadbaskets would become deserts, and fisheries would collapse. Food would become scarce, hunger and famine widespread. Governments would fall, economies would shatter, and global trade would grind to a halt. Societies would shift to survival mode, abandoning progress for crisis management. Trust in institutions would erode, and nations would become fortresses, guarding dwindling resources. International cooperation would give way to brutal competition. The world would be defined by loss, fear, and conflict. Civilization as we know it would become a relic of a lost world. Humanity might survive, but only as a shadow of its former self. Melting all Earth's ice in a day is a thought experiment, impossible in reality. The energy required would take thousands of years, not hours. But while instant melt is fiction, total melt over centuries is not. Human-driven warming is already accelerating ice loss in Greenland, Antarctica, and mountain glaciers. We've locked in some sea level rise. The question is how much and how fast. If we cross certain temperature thresholds, melting could become unstoppable, locking in catastrophic change. The scenario is a warning. We are the architects of our future. The choices we make now will decide whether we steer away from this path or surrender our coasts to the sea. Imagine Earth thousands of years after the last ice has vanished. New coastlines would hug the slopes of former mountains. Humanity would cluster on high ground. The great cities of today would be underwater ruins, mythic to future generations. The climate would be hot, humid, and violent, with new weather patterns emerging over time. Oceans would be larger, warmer, and filled with dead zones. Life would have passed through a bottleneck, biodiversity drastically reduced. Only the most adaptable species would survive. Evolution would slowly fill the empty niches. Humanity's memory of the Great Melt would become legend, a story of hubris and loss. The world would go on, but it would be a simpler, emptier place, shaped by our choices. This vision of a world without ice is a warning, not a prophecy. It is a glimpse into a possible future, one that we still have the power to change. The choices we make today will shape the world for generations to come. The fate of the cryosphere is tied to the future of every person on Earth. No matter where we live, the stability of our climate, our coastlines, and our way of life are all connected to the frozen places at the ends of the Earth. The ice sheets are not distant. They are the heart of our climate system. They regulate ocean currents, reflect sunlight, and help keep our planet in balance. Their influence reaches every corner of the globe. Their health is our health. Their loss is our loss. When the ice melts, it sets off a chain reaction: rising seas, shifting weather, and threats to the places and people we love. The processes described, rising seas, extreme weather, ecosystem collapse, are already beginning. We see the evidence in stronger storms, vanishing habitats, and communities forced to adapt or relocate. We are witnessing the opening chapters of this story in today's headlines. Every flood, every drought, every wildfire is a reminder that the climate is changing before our eyes. Caring about the ice is self-preservation. It's about protecting our homes, food, water, and future. It's about ensuring that our children inherit a world where they can thrive, not just survive. The ice is sending us a message, written in melting water. Our world is changing and we are the cause, but we are also the solution. Every action, no matter how small, can help slow the melt. Around the world, people are coming together to learn, adapt, and fight for a better future. Science, innovation, and collective action are powerful tools in our hands. The great ice sheets are a precious inheritance, a gift of stability. They have shaped our world for millennia, and their preservation is a responsibility we all share. Their fate is the most important story of our time. It is a story that will define us, and the legacy we leave behind. We are still the authors of that story, with the power to choose a different ending. The decisions we make now will echo for centuries. The echo of melting ice is a call to action, a call we must answer together for the sake of our planet and all who call it home.